nothing can stop us.
Nothing. Not even space tape. So let's see what happens and if we go live. I've no idea how to find out if we are.
Well, I'm looking at the YouTube page.
Okay. Let's give it a 7-second
Not a
delay.
lot going.
Is it now?
Oh, yeah, go live stream November.
Oh, there you go. We're 18 seconds in. Wow. How do I find it on this window so I can type in chat? That's what I want to know. Click live. You would think we'd be at the top, but we're not. Well, I'll find that in a few minutes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to live news for Thanksgiving 2021. If you've escaped the family to listen to us wittering on, thank you. And if you're listening in about a week's time, well, thank you for that as well. So, there's three of us. Apparently, Sparkle is in the emergency room. He's had a little accident. Scott can tell us about that in a few. So, I will go first with what I've been up to this last month. And if I flip the camera to that one, you can see I've upgraded the studio a little bit. I've put 4 new monitors in. The old ones were 19-inch, didn't do 1080p. These are 24, and they do 1080. So I finished the upgrade yesterday and then had to resize all the web pages for this feed so that everything still worked and wasn't shoved up in a top corner somewhere. So that's part of what I've done. If I do that, you can see it full screen there now. Wow. So I upgraded the monitors. I've got one computer that I want to upgrade. It's an old one, and I kind of held on to it because it's loaded up with emulators and stuff that I sometimes play on when I'm on a PC, but the PC is coming to end of useful life, so I will upgrade that and get rid. And then it's pretty much state-of-the-art in here. Gaming-wise, for this last month, in last month's news, we mentioned there was a new Scum version out, the 25th anniversary edition, Scum version 2.5. So I put it on a PC, had to play around with it. It is a lot better because it's been a long time since they've done anything with that. The new interface is good. You can add multiple games easily if you hold shift and do add game and all of that. And then I stuck it on my phone as well. My new phone, which I'll show in a second, and it's a lot better on that. So on the old Android version, used to just go full screen, and then it was a pain to get to the menus, you know, to save and resume and stuff like that, because it would go full screen and you'd lose your 3 Android buttons, then you'd try and swipe up to get them back, and sometimes it would register a click, but now it doesn't quite fill the screen with the game, and you've got a couple of big menu buttons at the side there. So the interface is a lot better on the Android version as well. So I've been playing a little bit of Scum. I modded my 3DS, so I reached out to Ben Jones a couple of weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer. He is the man to speak to for stuff like that. I don't tend to keep up to date with that stuff until I need to. So I was looking for a flash card for the 3DS. There's a few games I want to go through on there. So I asked him, you know, what card's currently the best. And he said, nah, just mod it. And then you can, you know, install all the games yourself. They can go on the menu. You can still do emulators. It can still go online and get upgrades and all of that. So I did that. It's a bit fiddly, you know. It's a lot more tricky than the Wii U was. You know, the Wii U, you dump a load of stuff on the SD, run it in order. This, it's like, put the card in, do this, take the card out, put this on, do that. A lot of fannying about, but it is worth it. And it's all modded and working. So I found a few games to put on there. You can rip cartridges, so I ripped all my cartridges. And then I found a couple of Club Nintendo games. I don't know how you got them legitimately, but I think it was Japan only. There's a couple of Picross games, a Mario and a Zelda themed one. So I've been playing through those, completed the Mario one, and started the Zelda. And there's a lot of games on there. So this came from a discussion I was having. I've had it a few times over the years, but I was having it most recently with Gareth at Play Blackpool. And he had his Switch there with some of these retro-inspired games that I've dipped my toe in them and just thought, I don't like them. And, the standout ones they always talk about, Dead Cells. I mentioned this at the start of last month. Dead Cells, I just didn't like. There was too much going on, and you got to go through the game 4 or 5 times. Then you get this, then you get... No, I'm not doing that. And what's the other one? There was another one that people love, a new one, and I just didn't like it. So I did give them a fair shake, some of these games. So I found some, and I will tell you what they are now. Box Boy, I found. Very simple platformer. It's pretty good, actually. These are the ones I've kept hold of and will play through. Gunman Clive, I know it's been out quite a while, but it's good. It's, again, a very simplistic platformer, and, you're playing a cowboy, and it's a platformer, and you're shooting the baddies, and it's pretty good. Another one I tried was Mutant Muds, which I liked. And then I found a couple of new versions of Shantae. So Shantae is an old Game Boy Color game, which I'm a fan of. It's a bit cutesy, as the name would suggest. You're playing the part of this pirate girl. But it's a decent platformer, and there's a couple of newer ones on the eShop or the 3DS. And one is Shantae Risky's Revenge, and the other is Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. So I gave them a quick look, and all these I've just kind of skimmed through and thought, yeah, I'll keep that and go through that a bit at a later date. I just wanted to give some of these modern retro-inspired games a fair shake. And the last one I tried was Shovel Knight, which I've heard people talk about lots and lots. It's probably a few years old now, but I did actually like that. So I played through quite a bit of that, actually, and we'll obviously go back to it. And then I found a Game Boy Color game I was flicking through, so I got a new phone, as I said, and I put some emulation on there, and I found a Game Boy Color game, which is a platformer, interesting platformer, called Wendy Witch Way, W-I-T-C-H. She's a witch, as the name might suggest. So it's a platformer, so you're running along the bottom on the floor, and then if you press up and jump, you kind of go up to the roof, and you run along the roof, and you kind of flip between the two to get through the level. Interesting little game. The levels so far are pretty short, but it's a bit cutesy, but decent playing game. So I've had some decent gaming experiences. So I replaced, which camera am I on now? Let's go to that one. Or I'll go to the new one, actually, so then you can actually see without all the green screen stuff. So I got myself a Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra. I did have the Note 10, and that was a brilliant phone. Really, really liked it. And it's the first time I've got to like the end of 2 years or whatever and thought, you know what, I'm not really that fussed about upgrading. I don't really need to upgrade my phone. It's the first time ever that I've got like that. The battery was still good. It still had lots of charge. Did over a day unless you hammered it. And it was just a really, really good phone. And this one is as well. So I've been putting some stuff on there, and it runs Dolphin on here, and you can emulate the GameCube on this thing at full speed. So I've been doing that, thrown a few games on there, and it's just crazy how the phone in your pocket can play a GameCube game without slowdown. Movies, I watched a couple of movies, an old one, which is a good film. I don't know if any of you have seen it. If you haven't, you should do. It's No Country for Old Men. Decent film. And I watched a fairly new one. Is it Ryan Reynolds? Is that who it is? The Free Guy, which is where he's like an NPC stuck in a video game. Little bit twee, little bit, family orientated, but there are some good lines in there. Lots and lots of gaming references. Like Wreck-It Ralph, that kind of thing. They know parents are going to go and watch this with the kids. So there's lots of references in there for the parents as well. Lots of gaming references that you will pick up on. So that was a decent watch. And then TV-wise, so we've talked before at length about Clarkson's Farm, and the latest sort of solo project to come from that team is Richard Hammond's Workshop. Now, I have seen Hammond's solo stuff before, and it's a lot more mainstream than the other two are. A lot more family-friendly audience, and a lot more, primetime stuff. So I didn't expect a great deal going in, and I got pretty much what I expected. It's worth a watch if you can stand a little contrived drama. I'm a multimillionaire. I'm starting a business. I need to put 50,000 in. Oh my God, stuff has to happen this week, or I have to put another 50,000 in. I'm like, dude, how many 50,000s have you got? So there is a bit of that classic TV contrived drama going on, but there's a lot of classic car talk as well. So it's worth a watch. It's not as essential as Clarkson's Farm. If you're looking for something to watch, is what I would say. This might be news to you two. Maybe Random's seen it. I don't know about Scott. But Simon talked about it in Dinosaur Pie at the start. So if you're not listening live, you will have heard this. Craig Turner, who is the current organizer of Revival Expo, is having... we know he's not always a healthy man anyway, but he's actually got testicular cancer at the moment. So... he is about to undergo treatment for that, I believe, next week. An operation, I believe, and then, follow-up treatment after that. So he's been, over the last few months, people have been, asking him, is there going to be a revival? Is there going to be a revival? And he posted on Facebook, I think it was a week ago, something like that. Please stop messaging me about revival. I've got stuff going on. Here's what's going on. So I'm sure everyone listening to this, whether you've been to revival or not, Craig does a lot for the community. He's a popular man in the community, and we certainly hold him in very high regard. And I'm sure we all send him, prayers, wishes, good looks, whatever it is you want to send him. Drop him a message on Facebook, or just have him in your thoughts, I think. And, revival kind of becomes insignificant at this point until Craig is, well enough to run it, or decides not to, and maybe someone else takes it over. I don't know. But sending Craig all our best wishes from everyone on the show. And that is about me for the month.
I've not done a great deal of particular interest to many, I guess. I started the month with a trip with my mate to visit our backward cinema that we built in the summer, see how that's getting on, and see what the logistics are like for having to potentially replace the screen if we want to go and do another screening there. So we had just a sheet of lining paper in a big tube with us. Much easier than taking the whole frame again. We got there though. Some people had written on the screen, which we wanted. We'd kind of started that. In a bothy shelter, you have a logbook that people write in to say, that they've stayed there and what maintenance might need doing for the guys who look after it and things like that. And that had run out when we were there, so we started writing on the screen and sort of put a note on one of the posters we'd left up encouraging people to do that. And so that was fun to see that people had carried that on as a little tradition. Didn't bother replacing the screen, watched a couple of bits and pieces just for our own personal entertainment one evening. There were a couple of other guys in there. We showed them the trailer, and they were pretty knackered though, so they didn't want to spend all night watching stuff. So yeah, just showed them the trailer just to sort of give them an idea of what we did there and everything. And then moved on the next day to another bothy just the other side of the valley, which I'd not been to, and he hadn't been to for I don't know, maybe 10 years since he'd filmed a short film there for a competition. So we ended up settling in. We got there a lot earlier than we thought. The weather was horrific by this point, so we set up the screen as a sort of a temporary screen. Got lots of logs cut for the fire. I dumped a bunch of all sorts of stuff off YouTube onto a USB stick. So we sat down after dinner, watched the couple of the old short films for the competitions, starting off with the one that was filmed there. but then watched a couple of others and some outtakes, and then sort of went down this YouTube rabbit hole, just sort of analysing people's travel videos and vlogs and things, and saying it was supposed to be sort of research and where else we could go, but we kind of devolved into figuring out who were complete wankers, mostly, and who spent far too much time with very masturbatory, long drawn out drone shots and things like that. But that was quite nice. Test drove something from our sponsor in as part of that trip. I'm sure we'll talk about that later. After that, coming back to normal society, I then did a bit more of Metroid Dread, but with the new Animal Crossing update, kind of ended up having to sort of learn to share my Switch again a bit. So played a little bit more of Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, sort of dipped in and out of that a little bit. Ended up, I think, making some progress, but I'm still I can't get the sort of the map straight in my head. There's far too many rooms that look the same, so I still don't really know where I'm supposed to be going next. But yeah, and so not playing so much Metroid that I wanted to. I did start The Good Life, which was Swery's most recent game that was on Kickstarter a few years ago. And that's, well, I knew it was going to be not great, perhaps, but it's kind of weird. I know it's probably not good, but it's just a really sort of chilled out, relaxing game, and it's very much like a PS2 game. In some ways, takes a lot from A Dog's Life on the PS2, wraps it up in a sort of a more of a sort of a 3D action RPG type thing. Very story heavy, very fetch questy sort of heavy, but I'm kind of enjoying it. I've been pretty sick with bad cold and stuff this month, so it's been nice sort of when I can't be bothered to concentrate on a film or anything, but I want to just lie on the sofa. I can just sort of lie back and just wander around this world and take photos of shit and talk to people, and yeah, it's just a nicely paced, leisurely game. So yeah, that's been about it. Oh, actually, Mike, was it you or was it Sparkle that had said about the Final Girls?
Yeah, it was me.
So I watched that this afternoon while I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, and I watch a lot of bad films and enjoy a lot of bad films, especially ones that know they're bad. But this was, I think, just a step too far a lot of the time. Yeah, it's.
Scream on a budget.
I mean, Scream though was, I don't know. There's something really quite good about Scream still. Well, I suppose that was one of the early sort of before you went into scary movie, like went over the top with the parodies and stuff. And yeah, I mean, you could see that they had sort of maybe some good ideas, but I think, yeah, just overall, it's just something maybe a bit lacking about the story. Interesting, the sort of ending, how she went a bit fucking mental. It all went a bit hyper action weird. But yeah, I suppose I didn't begrudge the hour and a half too much. But yeah, so I watched that. So yeah, that's about it really of note.
Just a few minor things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my month has been kind of screwed, schedule wise. So not a lot of free time. I have gotten in a little gaming though. I bought a game, Returnal for the PS5, and the basic premise is that you crash this spaceship on this planet, and then you have to go running through these ancient alien ruins. It reminds me a whole lot of Mass Effect Andromeda and the Mass Effect that was prior to Andromeda. In fact, if I sort of ignore the overarching premise, it's basically a copy of Mass Effect, and that's what it is. But the premise is that you crash, and there's something about the tech or the planet or the alien mystery field or whatever they've applied to it that, you crash, you come out of the spaceship, you enter the ruins, and every time you die, you're returned to the moment you crash, and then the maze reconfigures itself. So the same rooms may not be in the same order. They may not be populated with the same monsters or the same, decorations or what have you. So basically, terrain, scenery. So basically, it's kind of like, in any other game where you die and it bounces you back to the beginning of the level. And I usually find that somewhat annoying, especially like the 5th time you died in a row and you're jumping out of that damn pipe trying to make this one pixel perfect jump. So some of it is a bit hard. It's pretty easy to get killed. So for a while, I just ignored trying to make any progress and just go bombing through the rooms, leaping over the monsters, running around the corners, and then go find some new doorway and then expand that part of it. Because every time you die, some things are saved. Like there's progress that's not saved and there's progress that is saved. And the progress that is saved is kind of like character development, power-ups, accessibility of weapons or whatever. And then you have to go back and sort of reclaim those things each run. So yeah, I just did a shit ton of run-throughs trying to, kind of build up the character to be able to survive a little bit for actually exploring. So I think the balance is a little wonky, but it's not entirely bad. And then Mark and I have been doing a little Back for Blood. We've been trying to get back a time to do it again. It's, like a zombie survival game. It's meant to be multiplayer. So, you throw in the headset and you run around killing zombies. It's really a decent instrument to do that. And that's about it. Gaming wise, I mean, classic stuff. I did a RetroPie config for a guy and, he's playing the hell out of it. I got a friend who's pretty ill right now, kind of a comparable thing to Craig. And so I just got through loading up a Nintendo Mini because he played that a whole lot. He was at, same age group we are. So he's a big Nintendo guy. So I loaded up a Nintendo Mini for him that, should keep him busy while he's housebound and whatnot. So other than that, not a lot over here, man.
So what did Sparkle get up to? Did you say? You just said before we went live.
Oh, he sent me some pictures. He has some light, dainty scratches on his hand and wrist. Personally, we had a medical treatment in the Army called rub some dirt on it and get back in the fight. So personally, I think he should have rubbed some dirt on it and gotten back in front of the microphone. But I guess he's a little tender.
Yeah. Oh, well, we send our best wishes to Sparkle as well. I'm sure he's in all our thoughts. And we hope his scratches scab over and heal up really soon. And I
don't think it's really scab material. If you look at it, there's, like sometimes you get that scratch that's so light, the skin just kind of closes up and it's a little pain for a few hours. Yeah. I don't think he's actually going to scab.
No.
Oh, hold on. Wait, how have I not done this? Let me send you the pictures. What's wrong with me? I'm sorry.
Well, get well soon, Sparkle. This one's for you. So we can get on to some news articles then. And the first one came in from Gareth Hamer, who is in the chat. There's a few in there if you want to join us. Not that you can join us if you're not there now, but anyway. And he says GoldenEye is free. So 24 years after release, GoldenEye on the N64 is no longer banned in Germany. It's a really short article, and to be honest, that is about it in the article. So make of that what you will, but GoldenEye is now free. And speaking of
Cool.
Germany, just not gaming or news related, but I watched a Harry's Garage this week, and he was in a Jaguar, what's it called, Project 8, and he went on a German autobahn and took it up to 200 mile an hour. A family saloon, albeit limited edition, family saloon, but he was doing 200 on the autobahn, and he said it got there more easily than a Zonda did, which is pretty awesome. And also, I watched a YouTube video. I can't remember the guy's name now, but he does some interesting stuff, goes to weird locations and things like that, all over the world. But he was in Germany and in the, what you might call the slow lane, or you should call the driving lane, on the Autobahn. Overhead is like electrification, like you would have on a tram. So when trucks go on there, once they get, up to speed in that lane, then the electrical contacts rise up off the top of the truck, go onto these electrical contacts, and they run electrically as long as they stay in that lane. If they can overtake, but if they indicate, the contacts drop down, then they go out, overtake what they're overtaking, get back in the slow lane, and then they come back up again.
You know what I'd like to see is a hydraulic device mounted in the left lane along the barrier. And if you're in the lane for more than, say, 30 seconds, and you are not going faster than the car next to you, the hydraulic rams kick in and knock your ass across a couple lanes of traffic, possibly into the other side.
Yeah.
Just looking at the pictures that Scott sent through, which I don't know if Mike's planning to put those into the stream or not.
Oh, that a bit. Oh my God, he's gone to hospital with that.
So, a few weeks ago, it's probably about 2 months ago now, I trapped my finger in the hinge of the front door as I was closing it. I ripped a massive chunk out of my finger that was bleeding profusely, but I just whacked a bit of super glue on it and a bit of surgical tape, and then carried on with my life, and it looks a lot worse than those.
Jesus Christ.
Are you sure they're not? Is that not just Scott's cat scratches that he sent us?
Maybe.
That's not my arm, dude.
Not
my arm, not my cat, not my scratches, not my cats.
He's gone to the ER for some magic cream and a kiss better. For fuck's sake.
You know what? I think that's going to happen. They're going to pull out their magic cream and she's going to kiss his boo-boo.
Jesus H. Christ. This is a grown man we're talking about. I'll take back all our best wishes. Man up. Jesus. Unless like his arm's severed and that's like on a gurney or something. Look at this scratch on my arm as it got ripped off. Jesus Christ.
There's probably more damage on the trailer hitch than there is on his arm.
Yeah, they had to, take a Kleenex and wipe off that little bit of. There wasn't any blood per se, but there could have been a tiny that little bit of skin tissue. I mean, that could have caused jamming later while towing. So.
Wow. All right.
Wow.
Back to some news. And Random has got one there.
Yeah, that I sent in. This is part of the Tomb Raider 25th anniversary celebration. Square Enix revealed that they are developing, or getting someone else to develop, a tabletop RPG based on Tomb Raider, presumably based on the newer Tomb Raiders. But then I guess there's not that much difference really in lore. It's, various animals and Lara with guns. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work, in terms of multiplayer action. If there's maybe other people taking the role of, dungeon mastering, sort of playing the enemy, there's going to be probably mercenaries, but yeah, the animals and things like that, and then someone's trying to be Lara and get through to the treasure or what. But yeah, might be,
I just see this going very awkwardly, you got your dungeon master thing there. Okay, you come into a room with swinging vine, and what do you want to do? I want to touch my own boobs.
So we got a pinball one related here from Doug0909, a name we don't see frequently enough. And it is Canada's greatest songwriter on pinball. And this is an article on Alan Show. That's a weird combination of words. Alan Show Walter. Leonard Cohen writing and playing pinball machines. Writing about and playing pinball machines. And I've not put any of the links in chat yet. I should try and remember to do that. There it is for you. And it is, again, a fairly short article, but interesting nonetheless. And while we're on pinball, Scott, did you miss last month's news? I seem to remember us talking about the Stranger Things pinball, and we need a casting vote because Random hasn't played it. I played it and loved it. It's probably my favourite pinball at the moment, and Sparkle didn't like it, but was going to play it again. Have you seen it anywhere?
No. I haven't seen one anywhere, period.
Well, you need to get out there and play Stranger Things.
Yeah, I didn't like the TV show. I doubt I'll like the pinball, but...
oh, that's right. You bailed on the TV show.
It just got boring real quick. And just got... I don't know, just nothing about it I liked. It just wasn't for me.
It's got Dungeons and Dragons in it.
Yeah, but it's like literally just a mass of references presented by characters you don't relate to and events you don't care about and silly ghosts. So it's just not for me. But what may be for me, I don't know yet, is I do have the 8-Bit Christmas queued up in Plex. Maybe I'll watch it. Probably watch it. Maybe I'll finish it. Maybe I won't. I don't know. It looks like it could go either way. Either it's going to be kind of good or kind of not good. I'm pretty shocked they're remaking Home Alone. I mean, maybe you shouldn't just remake every movie arbitrarily that had success, hoping to repeat the success. I mean, I can't imagine it being any good. How can you remake that? And you could have Home Alone, the Next Generation or something if you wanted to be really brilliant and have the grandson of the Macaulay Culkin kid get stuck at home alone or whatever. Okay, fine, but I don't think the way they're going about it's going to be any good.
Yeah, I watched the trailer. I wasn't convinced by the trailer. The link we've got in chat there is dead now, but it is out there. Yeah, like Scott, I'll watch it. Maybe I'll finish it. Maybe I won't. We shall see.
Well, then there's also the studio behind Super Mario Brothers is also making a Donkey Kong film. Now, I don't know. With any of these films, I mean, these days I have so little trust in the film industry to do anything of value and to not poison it with whatever the current messaging scheme is for the approved, acceptable party views. I don't know, but I just don't trust the movies anymore. I mean, there's such a good chance they're either going to wreck something that had been done before or do a piss poor job or, thinly veil a propaganda film as an entertainment film that I just don't. For me, it's a 1 in 10 shot they're going to make a good movie on anything anymore.
Yeah, I think you also missed my review of Halloween Kills last month as well. I went to the theatre to watch that. That's some woke shit. They've killed that the way they killed the Terminator franchise.
Oh, yeah, dude. And I think it was said best that everything that goes woke goes to shit. And there's no doubt about that. I mean, yeah, they killed Terminator so badly. I mean, and the irony was the premise with which they killed it with was absolutely hysterical. The director, producer, whatever, was giving all these interviews and running around talking about how this is going to piss off all the fans because there's such a strong female lead and they won't be able to handle it. I'm thinking, wait, all right, hold on. First of all, you've already pissed off the fans just by saying you're going to piss off the fans. Like, oh, I'm here to agitate you, not entertain you. I'm not going to deliver the movie you want. Well, that's what makes people fans. So now they're not fans. And consequently, maybe you didn't get this in Socialism 101, but then they don't buy your product and then you're not a rich, successful producer. And then you have to work for a living. Sorry. But they pushed that premise. And the entire time I'm thinking, how useless is this argument he's making? Because if you can think of a stronger female role model and character than Sarah Connor in movies, I challenge you to do so. And organically so. They didn't try and shove it in anybody's face. She simply was an ordinary, kind of like Sigourney Weaver in Alien. She was sort of an ordinary person in extraordinary circumstances and became the hero, heroine, whatever we want to say, of a sci-fi movie. So here you are. It would be like remaking Aliens to have a strong female role model. That's the absurdity of the situation. And they do it with no fucking sense of irony. They think they're saving the world and they go right ahead with it. And next thing you know, another franchise dies on the vine. And I hope they're proud. What absolute idiots.
Well, before we do another news item just yet, we've got a man who's had some magic cream applied. Let's see if it will let me add him to this, and we'll see what happens. We can.
Oh, we have to find out if they kissed his boo-boo.
Yeah.
Fresh from his sponge bath.
If this is another ploy for a sponge bath, I'm going to be very upset.
Yeah. He should be there. Come in, Mr. Kaminsky.
Delete that.
Hello. Are you feeling better?
No, I'm all
Did they kiss you
busted
boo-boo? Busted up.
Yeah.
Did they push the bone fragments back through and send you home?
Yeah.
How serious is it? Are we talking like nearly a coma, or did you power through?
I'm just gonna work through it. I didn't lose a limb, so that's good.
How close did you come to losing a limb?
Pretty close.
How later did they get through?
Almost had a trailer go through another vehicle. It was pretty good. You should not put a trailer on your vehicle without working lights. So just PSA.
Useful advice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nearly grievous injuries could occur.
Yeah. You could get
got one here
up
from UK Mike. The original Apple I built by the firm co-founders of Steve Wozniak and Jobs in 1976 has fetched $400,000 at auction. It's a rare Hawaiian wood case Apple I, still functioning, and only 200 were made. It originally was bought from the second owner for $650 and fetched quite a bit of money. Now, some of these have reached nearly $1 million in the past, so this one kind of sold for a good deal, I guess, if you look at it that way. But yeah, it's cool. It looks really cool in that Hawaiian wood case. Do you guys look at that one?
Yeah. I remember. It's a long time ago. We covered one that had sold, and yeah, like you said, so they've gone for a lot more before. But I mean, based on his investment, it's not a bad markup.
No, and I think some of those, like, I seem to remember the ones that were sold. They actually, like Wozniak or Jobs, like they had like signed their names on the inside of the computers or something like that. I think those are the ones that go for a bit more, those Apple ones. But how about Ronald Wayne? That guy, I'm surprised he just didn't want to fucking kill himself every day of his life for being the coat. Well, I think he's still alive. the third leg of the Apple stool, and taking, what was it, $2,000 or something to forfeit his third of or 10% share of the company. It'd be worth like
yeah,
it'd be like the richest guy on the fucking planet today.
Yeah, it's
God
crazy.
damn.
Wonder what he does now.
Sits in a chair going, God damn it.
Yeah.
UK Mike submission. The 10 most valuable movie posters. So there's a lot of neat stuff. A lot of it's early stuff, like 20s, teens. Like Lon Chaney's, After Midnight and Dracula. A lot of neat ones here. The Casablanca poster. That was what, 30s, I think. 1946. And there's a great one here of, I think the number one was Metropolis, sold for $690,000. Now, I'm okay with prints. Like, if I want to look at the movie poster of Metropolis, I'm cool with a copy. I don't feel any need to go out and spend, $690,000 on a poster. But I suppose if you wanted to own one of the movie posters, that's what it costs you. Bit much for me.
What if you could have an NFT of someone's photo of the original poster? Now that would be worth money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think with those, it's like, I get it. Like, I get why it's valuable. I think that's a bit much, but there wasn't many of them made, and it's from 1927. I mean, it's almost 100 years old, so.
Yeah, but I can buy a 1927 car for around $8,000 to $10,000 in pretty good, what's called parade condition, which means it's, running, drive, and it's not like museum quality, but it's a solid car. So I guess I'd go that way instead.
Well, and I'm sure that the one that sold was museum quality, and you got to think like a piece of paper to survive almost 100 years. It's quite fragile,
Aye.
I don't know. It's just a lot for what it is.
I've got an old car story, not gaming related, but a funny little story. So over here, if you want to swap the number plate from one car to another, both cars have to have a valid MOT, which is like the annual roadworthiness test. And so an acquaintance, shall we say, found this old 1920s car, real old thing, and it had a number plate on that he wanted, and it was basically a barn find. It was just a wreck, rusted, but not a good barn find, Rusted, was never going to get on the road. So he went to an acquaintance of his who had an MOT place and said, right, that scrap of metal that's outside on that trailer, I want an MOT certificate for it. Don't worry, no one's ever going to come back on you. I'm going to sit on it for about 10 months, and then in 10 months' time, I'm going to apply to swap the number plate onto my car. No one's ever going to pull this car up and say, how did this get an MOT or anything? And so that's how we did it. And, if they had come back on him and said, this never passed an MOT, he said, oh, yeah, it's been in a barn, kids got in, wrecked it or whatever. So that's how we managed to obtain his number plate.
Can you not sew on it and take the number plate?
You certainly couldn't then. This was probably 60s, 70s. I don't know if you could then, but no, both needed a valid MOT.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So basically, he wanted a license plate from that year. Basically, you're rolling around in a modern car with a very old license plate.
Yeah. It was the configuration of letters and numbers that he wanted.
I know that's a big thing over there. And like, it's you were explaining to me the market value of like how like the more you add, the more custom the plate is, the more expensive it is. So like here, it's like a $10 fee to have a custom plate. But there, you're telling me, if you want something like 80 from Caneborn, it would be like $1 million.
Yeah, and it goes the other way too. So there's a plate in London, and it's on a little Fiat 500, and the plate is B1. So the fewer letters and numbers you have, again, the higher the value, and that's valued at $1 million. And there was one higher that was A1. Somebody, I think in London, has that as well, and that went for $4 million.
Wow, I mean that seems like a kind of a market that a guy who would sell special edition colors and special edition numbers would love to. Yeah, a big game the license plate market now.
You just go on your state website and you just punch in what you want and you pay like the $30 or $50 and they send you the plate. People get pretty clever with some of that shit. I always wanted to get a like an old white van with like spray painted windows and get a custom plate that said KIDNAPR. And I think that would be like fucking great.
Yeah, over here we have, it's probably a committee, but we do have some organisation that vets applications for plates. And I was reading a website of plates that they've rejected, like PEN 15 and stuff like that people try and get through. And some of them make it through, but they can revoke them. If it's one they missed and say the police pull it over and think that, that's not appropriate, then they can revoke it.
Yeah, I had that happen to me. I had a plate that got through, and it was on there almost a year. Then I get a letter saying I had to write, like I could either surrender the plate or I could fill out this form, and they would determine whether I had to surrender the plate. So I said that what I had, the word I had, whatever word phrase, was a small village in France. Mm-hmm. And they did not believe that, and they made me turn the plate in. So I said that one plate was damaged and surrendered the other one, so I still have one. I think the best plate that I ever had was when the electric Tesla, the Tesla Roadster came out, which is a Lotus Elise with an electric motor. And so I had at the time a compound charged Lotus Elise. And so I got, people kept asking me if it was the electric one. And so I got a license plate that said CO2 maker.
So a little show and tell before we hit the next one. This might work on the green screen. If not, I can flick to the other one. Where will it be? There it is. Kind of works. I'm having a nice little bullet bourbon. Not the best, but it's good and it's quite cheap. It's no old Grandad, I'll grant you, but I love the old bottle as well. It's like, let me flip the camera to the other one. It's like an old, you see some cowboy walk into a saloon and order a bourbon or whatever. That's the kind of bottle it tends to come in. Really classic shaped bottle. I love it.
Wow. So I got one here. This was from David Gyrich. David, thank you for sending this one in. This is an important, we get a lot of fun news articles like, delicately scuffs arm, movie posters for sale, whatnot. This is an important one. And this illustrates something I've been talking about for a long time that I think is a very real thing. And it is old MGS games to be delisted. And he says this is always the problem with digital games. Now, my view is, if you are not archiving your games, if you're not buying physical copies and keeping the physical copy, and you're not, like, if you want to keep ROMs, you get the ROMs, you put them on your drives, and you retain them, and you curate that collection, you grow that collection. You don't ever rely that those games are going to be there to be played again. And, also it's kind of like, when I bought, for example, I bought the KISS, Destroyer 8-track. And then I bought the KISS Destroyer cassette, right? And then I bought KISS Destroyer Get on CD, right? So now it comes out over digital download. You can buy KISS Destroyer. I'm like, I bought that thing 3 times. I own that fucking thing. And I just, get the MP3s, But here, they say it's temporary, but is it? So they're pulling down Metal Gear games. Pretty much the whole series there. And they're looking to rework the licensing. And that's the problem with digital. If you rely on other people to provide you your games and host your games, I just don't understand it. I don't even understand people getting excited. And you hear it all the time. Like, oh, such and such game is going to be on this service today. It's like, hey, I've had that ROM 15 years. I don't care. And the number one thing I wanted over all the years was a unified platform to play all these ROMs. And the way that that's arrived with the RetroPie, it's here. I mean, if you want to put together a dedicated gaming laptop with, HDMI out, you can do that. If you want to put together a little box about the size of a pack of cigarettes, you can do that. And, like the other day, I carried one of these, around with me like I do on trips, whatnot. And you got 10,000 games on one little device, and they run beautifully. So I don't see the point relying on others to host your games. Host them yourself, archive them yourself, trade them with friends. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. And that's a big franchise to take down as well, so it makes you wonder what some of the smaller franchises might be up against. Maybe there was a fight to keep them up and they lost, I don't know. But not good news. Not good news. So one here from Andrew Costin. And I read this when it came in and have since forgotten what it was. But it says, retro collectors are uncovering hordes of old data. More and more people are collecting vintage computers and they're getting more than they bargained for. That's what it was. So people were getting, dumpster diving old computers and things like that, buying them secondhand. And they were finding lots of data on there. Now, this article, being in the UK, does verge on breaching GDPR because, you might buy an old, say Apple or something like that that's got medical records on and, some doctor isn't going to maybe know how to wipe all that off when he gets rid of his computer system and replaces it. Somebody who does that for him perhaps should, but people are finding, personal data on second-hand machines. And some of it will be useful, Old code from video games will certainly be among that, but yeah, there'll be lots of useless but interesting data as well.
Maybe some tax and social security numbers and things.
Yeah.
People have done their old accounts on there. One that I sent in, if you're listening to this at the start of the month, you've just about got time for this. It's the Doncaster video game market, which makes a return on December the 5th this year. The last one would have been the one in 2019 that was at the start of March, just before the UK went into full lockdown. It was absolutely rammed as ever back then. I would not surprise me if it was somewhat more, at least they may sort of attempt to have people distanced a bit. What that might mean is that the kind of, there's a bit of a rush to get in at the start, as you can imagine, for people to want to get in, get the bargains early. So that might be prepared to cure maybe a little bit longer than even before. But good. Well, assuming the same sort of volume of traders turn up, it's a pretty packed hall with lots of variety, lots of good stuff, loads of cheap bins to dig through, as well as your more flagship items. So yeah, if you're in the area and want to pick up some bits and pieces, head over to Doncaster Dome, I think it is. So it's just outside of town, so you don't have to worry about shitty traffic either.
Well,
another here from George Lutz. Now this is kind of cool because here we have another. We got our fun stuff, we got our important stuff. This is another, kind of important narrative on gaming. But I agree and I disagree with George's assessment here. He said there's a U.S. senator linking the decline of traditional masculine porn to video games. Now, so Josh Hawley was saying that what he said was the criticism of traditional masculinity is making American men less manly, okay? Inspiring them to sit at home watching porn and play video games. Well, he said something similar to that. But yeah, you know, the problem with all these people in Congress. Now, Hawley's solid as fuck. He is incredibly knowledgeable on, you know, national defense, on, you know, economic priorities, border security. I mean, this is a bright guy, but he's out of his depth on gaming and, you know, such. I mean, he's right. He looks around and sees the same thing I do. You know, when you have this feminization, chickification, softing, you know, and criticism of basically just baseline masculinity is being criticized. And there was a word that was come up with and contrived of by these people called toxic masculinity. That was a thing they created to push on other people as somehow being bad. It's not an imagination of the people criticizing it. It's a real fucking meme created by people that mean to tell you that it's a bad thing. So it's not exactly fair to say, oh, this guy just made up this crazy thing, you know. But, you know, that said, Lux makes a great point here. He said, do you ever think there can be a case where a guy plays a game with a super buff character and thinks, no, I want to look like this character, and starts hitting the gym? Well, and it also cuts the other way. Do you think there are situations, you know, where somebody plays Call of Duty and thinks, wow, guns are cool, maybe I should buy the real thing, and becomes a firearms enthusiast? Well, no, I don't think any of those things really happen. I don't think by playing a video game, I'm going to suddenly say, I don't feel like being masculine anymore. I think it's dangerous to others. I'm going to piss around this place. You know, no. Nor do I think, you know, I can't remember the comedian, but, you know, he was doing a bit. He said, you know, because it's during like the anti-Pac-Man phase, like, you know, the anti-video game craze of the early 80s. And, you know, where it was a video games dictated behavior. We'd all be running down the street screaming about these goddamn ghosts chasing us. And I thought it was a brilliant, you know, illustration. No, I don't think video games inspire behavior. I don't think that anybody is going to buy a gun and use it in any capacity, which is perfectly legal and fine, or is going to be inspired to work out or not work out, or is going to be inspired to shed their masculinity, or is going to become more masculine. In short, I don't believe video games can dictate behavior. And one of my favorite bits, I think Josh should, you know, I know Josh wasn't literally saying this. What he was saying is, you know, all these, you know, anti-American and anti, you know, who we are memes that keep getting pushed on people are bullshit. But so I don't agree that video games dictate behavior, and I don't agree anybody in Congress, you know, whether you like him or not, should spend much time doing any formal action. You can comment on things, but trying to create formal legislation is a fucking waste of time. And I'll wrap it up by saying one of the neatest things was when I think it was Ron Paul, or maybe it was Rand. I always confuse Rand and Ron, but I think it was Rand, where he had commented that there was a congressional committee that was debating regulation of cryptocurrency. Now, they're in there debating regulation of it. And he just starts taking them apart, and he's really beating the shit out of them. And he's asking, so what is a cryptocurrency? What is a blockchain? How does this work? You're trying to regulate things that you don't even understand what they are. You don't need to be here doing that. And he just lit into them. So absolutely brilliant.
I will take the contrarian view and say, after playing Grand Theft Auto, I thought hijacking a sports car and banging hookers seemed like a better idea.
Becoming a drug kingpin.
Yeah, drug kingpin looked pretty promising after playing that game. It opened my eyes.
It's a gateway game.
I'd never realised hookers and blackjack was so
game.
fun.
8 bits leads you to 16 bits.
Yeah. There was one that was sent in from several folks, David Gyrich, Mr. Hamer, and some others, about some new Atari 2600 games. So AtariXP.com has a new collection of 3 games. They released Aquaventure, Saboteur, and Yar's Return for pre-release in 2022. And initially, these were wrongly attributed to Howard Scott Warshaw. And then he kind of came out and said, I didn't do these. Yar's Return was a homebrew adaptation by Kurt Vendel. He just hadn't recalled working on some of these games. So they've since retconned it and gone back and fixed, taken his name off of these things. But yeah, they look pretty good. I think the Aquaventure out of the three probably looks the most interesting to me. And it's cool that they were able to uncover these, and there'll be some new Atari 2600 games. The packaging's really nice. I'm glad that they sort of did it right with the artwork and everything else. So it can kind of warp you back to 1983, if you will.
So Mark, you're kind of a savvy guy on packaging and boxes and such. So looking at the photo, it seems like what they're doing when they show you the Yar's Returns and the limited edition, it's almost like they've zoomed in on the box. Are they? But the box looks like a render. The whole thing looks like a render. So I really don't know. Like, if I were to order this, I would be kind of not surprised. Like, let's say I ordered the Yar's Return for $49.99. If I got the book, the cartridge and the manual, or if I got a box that is just thinner than the deluxe box, I don't know what I'm buying here. And I can't really tell if that's on purpose or what.
Yeah, my guess is they've decided to pre-order all these, so they have a little bit better idea of how many people are actually going to order them.
Yeah, we did that, sure.
And it looks like these collector's editions come with some extras, like a poster and like some kind of enamel pin and some kind of patch and COA and some other crap, digital copy. It's limited. So there's some other crap going on in the box, and I'm assuming it's just the extra space that's needed for these additional items that they're including. But yeah, these are most certainly renders. These are not complete products yet. I mean, the artwork is probably correct, but I doubt that they printed up one box just to take a photo of it. They'll do a massive print run whenever they finish these, and if they're doing 1,983 of these things, my guess is that they're really doing 2,000, and there's a couple that are going to some top people at the company or something like that. It's just like an odd number, so they'll print more than that. But yeah, pretty interesting.
Yeah.
All right, gents, it's that time. Are you looking for the gift that keeps on trimming? Manscaped, the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, have got you covered. Or should I say, uncovered. Join the over 2 million men around the world who trust Manscaped to keep their gentleman gardens in order. Go to manscaped.com and use the code RGRoundup for 20% off, plus free shipping. Check out the Performance Package 4, which I have right here, or I did have. I've left it in the other room, but I did have it right here. And inside you'll find the signature Lawn Mower 4.0, the landmark trimmer with its skin-safe technology. That's skin-safe technology. It's even waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. Are you sick of your partner leaving hair in the plug hole? Well, now's the time to get your own back and leave some of your own hair in there. The Manscaped Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant that Random's going to tell us about in a minute. And it's a moisturizer and toner. Not only that, but something else Random is going to tell us about. You can also get a pair of Manscaped anti-chafing boxers. And if that's not enough for you, you also get the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer. Again, waterproof with a 9,000 RPM motor. That's 9,000 RPM motor. Higher revving than most cars. Certainly mine, but then mine is a diesel. Trim that nose hair with its 360-degree rotary dual blade system. Even Random Dave can use the new Manscaped Refined Cologne with a light yet masculine fragrance, because it's not only hypoallergenic, it's vegan. That's right, vegan. It's cruelty-free, dye-free and paraben-free. I don't even know what parabens are, but it doesn't matter because it's not got any. All our listeners love technology, and get a load of this. It's got wireless charging using electromagnetic induction. So imagine the next time you're in WhatsApp and Random Dave sends you one of his pictures, he'll be looking immaculate both downstairs and upstairs. So help yourself to reduce the risk of ingrown hairs and grooming accidents by checking out the Manscaped Performance Package 4.0. And remember, it comes with 20% off and free shipping with the code RGRoundup at manscaped.com. So come on, Random, spill the beans about this Scottish Highlands trip where you tried out the products.
So yeah, I tried out the boxers. I'm not usually just go for fairly baggy boxers, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to be doing a lot of cycling with a shitload of weight, so that's going to be a bit of a sweaty mess, and then I'm going to climb up some mountains. Why not give them a proper trial, see how technical and wicking they really are, and see what they're like. And actually, I was quite surprised, genuinely. Maybe not so sure on the sort of the tight form fit, perhaps, but like I say, it got very sweaty on the way in on the first night going to the shelter, and then the next day went out. It was kind of drizzly and rainy all day. My mate got completely wet through everywhere. I stayed pretty wet on the outside, but that on the inside even, but that meant I had lots of waterproofs on, so I was quite warm, quite sweaty again, but my balls and everything did stay pretty fresh and dry, and it was doing a good job of wicking stuff away. So, but actually quite impressed. So yeah, I'm looking at some other options at the moment as well. I'm gonna sort of return to looking at some bamboo-based stuff, I think, in our February trip. But yeah, I didn't think they were too bad at all. And then obviously I hadn't shaved before the trip because it was going to be pretty cold. And every time I get up to the top of a Munro, which is a mountain they're all in Scotland, but a mountain that's above 915, maybe 914 meters high, I do a nutscape photo at the top, and I figured I probably want some fuzz on there just while it's going to be freezing cold. But once I got back, I had a quick blast on the lawnmower, compared it to my other clippers that I usually use, and it was I was purposely very carefree, I wanted to really see what the skin safe was all about, because I do have problems with my other clippers. They're very sharp, but definitely get into trouble here and there. But these I could just pretty carefree razz around. My only sort of criticism, I mean, they've got a ceramic blade, so they should, which is what I've been getting on clippers for years. I find that does stay nice and sharp, but they don't really like my facial hair, which I did before I did my balls. But not a lot of things do. I've had proper, the likes of Braun and Phillips, their actual shavers will blunt in like a matter of months on my hair. So I wasn't overly surprised that they couldn't get through that. But my other clippers are good for my face and my head.
Yeah, that's
So,
my
yeah.
thing.
Don't
Terms of
confuse the
use-
two.
Now,
Yeah, that's what I think.
I used that lawnmower or whatever. I didn't find that the ceramic blade, I mean, I guess maybe in the long run they're better, but I thought it meant like it won't cut you or something. And I still ended up with a couple little nicks. It seemed a little underpowered to me than what I'm used to. I usually go with the Philips something. What is it? The Philips Norelco Multigroom 9000 is my everyday go-to. But if you don't have a trimmer and you're looking for one, I think that the Manscaped could definitely work for you. It's a small size. One of the nice features that got that light on it.
Yeah, the light was pretty handy, actually.
Yeah, they sent us out samples just so, like, full disclosure, like we got to try it out type thing.
We got
It's
one
fine
each.
if I
We're not
have
sharing
something
one.
What's that?
Yeah, we've all shared it. Just been
Yeah.
twisting it around.
If I didn't have something, I'd consider picking one of these up. I don't know that I'd give it like a 10 out of 10, but like a solid B+ or something.
It's yeah. I mean, it's my best option at the moment. Maybe my balls just aren't as old and wrinkly as yours, so they don't
No.
catch as easily.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Maybe he went to the R again and got some magic cream.
Yeah, my shit looks like I just dumped the brain out in my pants.
So, James in chat says, does it run cool without a fan? I bet Manscaped products do run cool without fans. I can't say that for definite because that might be false advertising, but I just bet they do run cool without a fan. So, try out
Do they
the
run on
best.
bulk power?
Probably wireless bulk power even. So try out the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Try out their precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Remember, it's skin-safe technology. It's waterproof, hypoallergenic, vegan, cruelty-free, dye-free, paraben-free, and charges wirelessly. So go to manscaped.com and use the code RGRoundup for 20% off plus free shipping, and do it today. Thank you,
I think
Manscaped.
cruelty-free is dependent upon use. And I do think that terms and conditions apply. Like, Dave trying to run this thing through his face is not exactly what, that they intended for. So, yeah.
Thoroughly
Got
road
one.
tested.
Got one from Ryan Toole that hits home with me. ReadRetro.com is now a retro video game store.
Again.
And this was an email that was sent out, and I still received it
3
even
times. I got it 3 times.
Yeah, I unsubscribed from their fucking list like I don't know how many goddamn times, and I still get their emails. And it's hello retro gamers. We wanted to let you know that Retro Magazine's owners have officially absorbed online retailer jjgames.com. You can now buy thousands of retro games and accessories at readretro.com when you read the latest news on the scene. We are updating the website daily. We have about 50% of current inventory listed, and thousands of more games and products will be added to the following weeks. So if you're looking for your next Christmas present, treat yourself at Read Retro, blah, blah, blah. So I tried going on this jjgames.com. Did you try going on it?
I went on Read Retro briefly. I didn't. Let's try jjgames.com.
You can't even go on JJ because it has a bad certificate. So,
I'm
Why am I not surprised?
So it was like when Sokal forgot to re-up his domain names.
Yeah, so like,
if it's the same place.
I don't know. Read Retro is just like a weird site at this point.
It's a zombie cockroach of a zombie cockroach of a zombie cockroach. It's like the grandson of zombie cockroach.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird. Like they're selling like used Game Boys and shit for like $240, and I don't know. It's just I don't know what the fuck this is anymore.
So here's an easy way to deal with bulk emails from people that you've told not to email you. You can find reflector services, right? So what happens the first time they email you and you do the take me off the list, right? You send them back 50,000 emails and say, remove it from the list, or the next time it'll be 100,000. They ignore it because it doesn't trip a threshold and crash the server yet. So they send you back, another email. And you say, okay, per my discussion earlier, I am now sending 100,000 emails in reply. So the reflector sends 100,000 emails in reply. And then they send you the third one. Then you send them 1 million. at some point you trip the threshold and flood their inbox, and they can't get anything, and it just done. So then all of a sudden they look and why is this happening? We got everything's full, everything's stuffed to the rims, and the constant pinging of the port trying to deliver the emails has shut down our server. What's in there? Oh, he keeps telling us not to email him. So eventually they get the fucking point.
So in the live video now, I'm on JJ Games, and on the main page, it's got, consoles, new products, different categories. It's got magazines, and it's got an image there that you click on of 3 issues of Nintendo Power. You click on it, and it's just issues of retro. No Nintendo Powers, just retro.
Do they still have issues?
Some are just digital. Some are just digital. So let's have a look at issue 14.
No, they never put anything out after the last one SoCal did.
So Retro Replay, they've got physicals.
Your shit you did 5 years ago.
Retro Replay, they've got physicals, and issue 14, they've got physicals. Everything else is digital.
So they're still selling the shit that Mark did years ago.
That's been sat in a container. Yeah.
Oh wait, no, he did put out one copy of his own magazine that was like completely bastardized, but he that's it. That's all Ely ever did with it, so I don't know.
Yeah. Damn.
Oh yeah, Ely did that sort of cut and pasted together monstrosity, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you be that bad at everything? I almost don't understand. Like, how do you actually fail that aggressively?
How do you, in the early days, think, oh, no, this is bad, I'm going to withdraw, I'm not going to be involved with this, and then down the road buy it?
Well, the one thing I can say about Ely, and I mean this with all sincerity and compassion, is that he took the title from me for being the leading dumbass of giving SoCal money by giving SoCal a whole lot more money.
Yeah. So, news. We've got one here from Gareth Hamer, which is called Rats of Doom. And this is an article on Medium, and it's Rats in Doom VR. So this guy built a VR setup for rodents, and they make their way around the tunnels. Which, I don't know. Do you get funding for research like that? I guess maybe. Is it a hobby? I don't know. But building the rig took about...
Rats pick the right boxes.
The build took around 4 months and cost more than 2 times what the final product amounts to. Sounds like a Coleco Chameleon to me, but rats are playing Doom in VR, apparently.
Cool. Got one sent in by David Guyrich, and this was something that Phil Spencer, boss of Xbox, came out with, was it last week or a week before? Basically saying that the industry as a whole is as we know, has not been great about trying to preserve its past, and that maybe there should be an industry-wide push to think of a standardized way to have legal emulation that can then run on modern hardware. This sort of came out around the same time as Microsoft's 20th anniversary Xbox celebration, where they put up quite a big dump of new backwards compatible games on the Xbox, which will be the last one as well, because there's just not financially worth doing all the licensing and technical stuff behind all of it. But it's quite interesting that, he's always been probably the executive that's sort of most in touch with the people, you could say. So yeah, it's interesting that he's sort of starting to talk about championing, this approach to just using emulators to try and preserve history, rather than, I guess, Nintendo's approach of selling emulators in dribs and drabs and it all being a mess.
Selling bad emulators.
Well, I will predict.
Yeah, and Sony just so
I doubt
these days.
I will predict, and I doubt I'll be wrong on this, that his idea may start with good intentions. The first formal action will be to create the licensing engine. Then the next action will be the lawyer. This will not end up being that thing. This won't end up being that.
It was interesting though. What was it? There's a I can't remember what game it was, but there's a game that's just had an HD remaster release. So obviously, they've done that to spruce it up and resell it. And then they added the original to backwards compatibility with, I think, graphical enhancements as well. Just resolution boost and things. So you've ended up with a case where they've sort of undermined their own marketing department, who've gone, right, well, we could put this on backwards compatible, but then people could just put the old discs in from, GameStop for $50 that, and not pay us anything. Whereas if we re-release it as a remastered one, obviously we can charge them again for the same product. And so they did that, and then, it got released anyway later on, and, not much further on either. So that's quite interesting that they've done that, as opposed to Take-Two, a Rockstar who, took down all the old versions of Grand Theft Auto from the stores to then re-release broken versions that were supposedly tarted up and better, and ended up as an apology, at least on the PC, having to put the old ones back on the store so that people could download them for free as a make good. So, yeah, who knows?
Well, this comes under the title of No Shit Sherlock, sent in by me, and apparently PlayStation 5 owners prefer boxed games to downloads. Wow. This figure comes from Game Sales Data's presentation at GI Live in London last month. So, yeah, I mean, what Scott was saying earlier about the Metal Gear Solid games, if they're digital only, they got taken down. You can't get those games anymore. And maybe there's hope yet if PS5 owners still want physical games rather than downloads. We're getting closer to the crossover, I think, but we are certainly not there yet.
I can't tell you how many people I have talked to where you discuss this issue, and their first, last, and only reply is, oh, but they promise to always make the games available and you can download them, until they don't. Name one thing commercially from 20 years ago that's out there for download still. Name one thing from 10 years ago.
Well, yeah.
They don't do that.
Case in point, go on a Wii and try and download stuff from the Wii shop.
Yeah, not even that old. I said at the top, I modded the 3DS, and there was games that I'd bought on the Virtual Console that I went looking for again to re-download. Not there. So I obtained them and put them on, but that's not the point, And how long ago was the 3DS? Not very. It's only the previous gen handheld, so yeah, even those have gone. And why take down a Virtual Console game, for God's sake? If once you've built the emulator, all you do is put it on the shop with a different ROM, different artwork, different ROM. Put all your collection on. We've said it before. If rather than sell one game for $5, sell them all for $1, and you will sell far more games. But for some reason, it just doesn't happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody wants the physical.
Yeah.
The thing is, I can't just wholesale dismiss these people as being incredibly stupid. I'm sure there are more than a few of them that have, their MBA. They manage to, work in a company and handle their stuff. So I don't want to just literally point a blanket finger and say everybody in the industry is too stupid to understand the simple point. I'm sure they've had the discussions. And I mean, I'm sure anybody that has ever worked in a, private government, any kind of entity where they're not basically just an artist painting paintings and selling them for their own damn money. I'm sure they've been in a situation where everybody on the team knows that this is the right thing to do or this makes sense. And then here comes that one person, that one lawyer, that one whatever that's just nah, we're going this way. And you're like, Jesus fucking Christ, here we go. And so I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to give them some leeway and assume that there were people that sat there in that meeting and said, oh, geez, really? Why don't we just put them all out there because we know they work? Do they think that the world is fooled that, like, well, one day they'll have the technology to emulate all these games, but right now we just get these same 6 again? I don't buy it. And, for me, the way that I've always sort of progressed through emulation and mods in the last, 4 generations of consoles is I tend to keep whatever I'm actively playing mod free, right? Like, I go out and I buy the games. I'm not averse to giving these people money. Otherwise, there won't be more, So I go out and buy the games. Like my PS5, totally untouched. I don't even know if you can mod it. I haven't looked into it. My PS4, when it was my active console, unmodded, untouched, right? The PS3, unmodded, untouched, right? So there's things they can lock you out of this, or they could, who knows? I wouldn't put it past them one day to brick consoles. So other vendors have bricked their own products before out of spite. So nothing would shock me or surprise me. So, sort of my wrap up point in all this is when I buy with Nintendo, whenever I buy the newest console, like I got the Switch, right? So the Wii U that really just went back in the box a month after buying it. It ended up being modified as, modded with everything. My Wii is super soft modded with the entire library. So more or less, once a console moves out of production, I download the entire ROM library, I mod it, I set it up as, all right, this is my Wii. It has every game ever made for it other than the cooking and the sports games. And that's my Wii. And right next to it is the Wii U. And that's my Wii U with all the, the mods and everything working. And I'm content with that. If it's during the production run, I'll buy it and all. If not, after I'm done, that console gets, just like you can look down the line, every one of my consoles on the rack here, the Coleco, the 5200, the 2600, the Fairchild, every one of these things has a multi-cart sticking out of it. So when I retire a console as my active gaming machine, for the current generation, I immediately load that fucker up with ROMs and it becomes an archive machine. And how about that? How about you just facilitate that?
Yeah. Did you go outside? Have you untaped your phone and gone outside?
Why is that?
It just sounds like you're walking about outside.
Oh no, I'm literally in the studio the whole time. I mean, I'm walking in the studio. Is that coming through?
Yeah, not in a bad way. I mean, yeah, the sound changed for some reason.
Oh no, I'm literally in the studio. I'm just kind of like right now I'm facing the short wall, and now I'm facing the long wall. So my bad. So just for the show notes, everybody, I had a sound card failure, and I ordered a new one, and it didn't get here in time for this episode. So
he's taped his phone to his head.
Well, I untaped it. I'm going to tape it back so I don't make any more disruptions.
So, speaking of PS5 and owners preferring box games, Japanese stores have tried to take a stand and dissuade scalpers by marking all the boxes on the consoles that they sell. So they might write on the outside box, they might open it up and sort of scratch away some of the cardboard inside so it's not pristine. Some of them have been taking the separate box the controller's in and just getting rid of that altogether. So a scalper might buy it and sell it for a higher price, but they can't sell it as pristine. So, I mean, if the problem with it, that is...
buy one either, right?
Yeah, so that's the problem with it. If you're desperate for a PS5 and someone offers you... yes, above market value and not with its complete pristine packaging. If you want that PS5, you're going to pay for it. So I'm not sure how effective it will be.
How about the store does a thing where somebody comes in and says, "Oh, you got a PS5? I want to buy it right now." And they look at them and go, "You've been in here 6 times in the last month, and fuck off."
Yeah. Yeah. But then
Just
I suppose
saying.
they'd just go to different stores. But Anyway.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if people start freezing out the scalpers, that's I've always said this. We have the ability to control this stuff. Like I was talking with Sparklepus the other month, and I was telling him, what about the power of no? What if we don't participate? So, like online games, it's stupid to have a subscription engine to use something that already works. It's just a pay gateway gratuitously added in. And I am not a fan of pay gateways gratuitously added in. So what if people just said no? What if the subscription numbers, just like that, headline, PS5 owners prefer physical downloads. Owners will not do subscription services. Owners reject emulation service, whatever. Just reject it. Say no. If you spend money on it, then it validates it and then it works.
Yeah. There is hold on, my shit's freezing up now. There's one from David Gyrich. He sent in that Xbox, their 20th anniversary museum, is a metaverse of full achievements and more. So Xbox did this little metaverse thing that you can do on a website where you go in and you're just sort of in this like dystopian futuristic world where everybody looks the same. What?
I said, all right, we're there.
Yeah. Everybody looks the same and you can kind of run around this sort of virtual world museum and kind of look at all the history points over the last 20 years of Xbox, from, the early prototype in 99 to Red Ring of Death and Gears of War, the saw rifle thing and some other things. So it's kind of interesting. I did it the other day and actually it seemed to work a little better. Now it's just a complete fucking mess and you can't, I have a fiber connection and my computer's just not really allowing me to run around this thing. You can see a warthog and some other stuff. It's kind of interesting, but I don't know if this is what we have to look forward to in the metaverse path.
Yeah.
I have no interest in that anyway. I just there's nothing about that point to point that has any use for me at all. Sometimes I wonder why they make these or even spend the time and effort.
Maybe they give a job to somebody that they're like, Ashley is really no good at character design, so we can put her on the metaverse thing or something. I don't know.
Put her in HR.
Project can we give the interns this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure somebody made a pitch and it seemed like a good idea. It's just kind of awkward. But maybe they're like testing out some shit that they could use in other stuff. I mean, it does run in browser. It's just painfully slow. Maybe there's just a ton of people on it right now or something.
I doubt that. So, yeah, industry response has been strong. We're overwhelmed. We have to boil down the feedback. So, speaking of mediocrity brought to life, that you run around and things work poorly, the Fallout RPG. So Gareth Hamer sent this in, and he said the title says it all. He needed not add commentary. Let's hope it's better than 76. I recently retried 76. I said to myself, it's been like, a year, 2 years, maybe more. I don't know. I've lost track since 76 launched. They've been doing patches and fixes. Surely they've had time to get writers in there. And what if they've got the game up to snuff, right? What if it's not as the total disaster it was when I tried it? It's still the exact same total disaster. They've made no effort to fix this, none whatsoever. They rolled. I can't imagine spending 1 million hours in product development and producing a turd and not being willing to spend 1,000,001 to fix it. You've got the skeleton there. You got the framework. I'm sure it could be adjusted. Take the ammo away from the zombies. How about that? Just do simple things. But no, it's still the same turd it was. So, what's really amazing to me is I would tend to think that companies would like to make money. and that the Fallout franchise has been huge. Fallout 4, I mean, it's one of the best games on any platform. Love Fallout 4. And Fallout 76, total turd. They messed that one up. Wouldn't they want to get Fallout 5 or Fallout, 77, the Apology, get something out there and get a successful product again and make money? Because right now there's nothing to sell. They're not doing that. They're looking at some canceled RPG from literally 20 years ago. Or the concept. Obviously, they're not going to generate the same code, but they're rehashing a concept they abandoned 20 years ago to do kind of an RPG. So I don't see that working. I would like to hope that I just kind of get up each day. I look at the gaming, not as soon as I wake up, but at some point in the day or the week, I look at the gaming radar and I see what's coming. And I keep kind of hoping there's going to be a shock announcement. Breath of the Wild 2 shipping today. Fallout 5, The Apology shipping today. But no, nothing. It just doesn't happen. And I'm still sitting there looking at a PS5, looking at a Switch, and like 3 games because there's just nothing out there.
So if you don't want to go through the hassle of maybe buying if you don't own it or patching Fallout 76, there's a listener of the show, friend of the show, CGE Arcade security guard, the alien, who has a YouTube channel, Goofy Old Guy Plays, and it's basically him just streaming some gameplay. He's not done any for a while, but he came back, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and he's been playing Fallout again. So you can check that out if you're interested, and check it out if you're not. So there's one here that I sent in, and this thing, we talked about it, what seems like and what probably is years ago, and it's still a thing, the Polymega. And this was kind of the base console that you had. It was, HDMI and all of that goodness. And you bought modules for it. So you plugged in a module with a CD drive and, maybe a PlayStation emulator or Neo Geo CD emulator. I think the CD unit does multiple systems. You plug that into the main unit and you play your original games on it. And they added, a Genesis module. So you bought the Genesis module, plugged that into the main unit, and then played your original Genesis games. And they've just added N64 emulation. And so it sent me down a bit of a rabbit hole thinking, well, I didn't know it. I knew it had come out, but I didn't know it was really still a thing that was viable and they were still adding modules for it. But they've got a ton of modules for it. It's expensive. I think the base unit's like almost $400, something like that. But I was just surprised and went down the Polymega rabbit hole for an hour or so.
Well, I guess I was going to wait to the very last topic to really bring this up and let us chew over it. But this butts right up against it. At this point, I think I have to declare the Amico to be a fucking train wreck. Well, so the back history, and why aren't you guys behind the Amico? I thought you guys were friends within television. Well, so do we. And we kind of got the douche shoulder brush off. And after everything we did now granted, different company, I get that. But, still you acquire a heritage, Anyway, it was just kind of not, the relationship didn't continue. I'll put it that way. And so I still thought, you know what, we're not going to, if that's the way, if we get the, the fan line is over there if you want an autograph. Okay, no problem. Well, then the fuck if we're going to push this thing for you or, get behind it or participate if we're like the tourists, like anybody else. All right, fine. No problem.
So I'm sensing some quid pro quo is what you're saying.
No, literally not at all.
Right.
No, we were expecting we've been, and as we've been tight with the television world for a long time. We helped them launch everything at 2014. Good friends with, Keith and all that. And, it was just more or less, the brush off, and it's like, all right, fine. We're not going to be there to help like we were in the past, but it's not like just we're going to, come on here and motherfuck the thing. So we just left it alone. We did. We just said, all right, we're just not going to talk about it. We're not going to promote it. And, I had a conversation with two of the guys that is on the team. And I said, look, we're not going to go out there and motherfuck this thing out of spite, but if you look around and wonder, where's RGR? Why aren't they with this thing? That's why, so, all right, fine. No big deal. So we kind of, go along. I put my money where my mouth was in that I wanted it to succeed. All right. We're not going to be, close with them on it, but I still want it to succeed. I still want one. I want it to roll out and really, get out there and do well. And yes, I'll buy one. Yes, I'll buy the games because it is exactly what I had said for years. Don't do it wrong. Just do it right. And, we saw the 2600 VCS thing, which you can still buy one for the price of a PS5 with a speaker hat bundle. And I said, let's let him do it right. And I'll buy one and I'll own one, we won't go on and really promote it or help it or whatever, but I'll buy it. So I ordered the Founders Edition, which is like the first one they put up and it was limited and all that. And I remember, like, I placed the order and then, 3 different people text me, oh, hey, man, we saw your order come through. Cool. And so they were sitting there watching the orders, like, literally come in, as I'm sure they were excited about that. So I ordered that. I ordered another color and another color. So I ordered 3. And the idea being, I wanted a Founders Edition. That's just going to go up on the shelf. And, let's order one to play and one to screw with, take apart and play around with. So they kept having the delays. And, I'll give Pat and Ian credit. They were a little harsh. And like I said, I had no interest in motherfucking these people. I did not. That wasn't our intention to do that at all. So when Pat and Ian were kind of, coming down on these guys, I said, well, that's a bit much. And I thought it was a little over the top. But there's a couple things they weren't wrong about. One, they weren't wrong that these guys were way further behind than they indicated. And that, and I honestly, I knew that they were, but I didn't look into it deeper than that. I mean, because I really wasn't out to get them. And there were key people that they were just starting to hire or just starting to look for, that person's, work cycle takes 6 months to a year. So here it is, a month from the proposed launch date, and you're just now hiring the guy that's going to take a year to do his job. This thing isn't launching when you say it is. And sure enough, it didn't. So they gave another, hey guys, everything's going to be okay. We're going to get it into the hands, at least the first batch of, all these things. We're going to get into the hand of the buyers, and it's going to happen. And, it got pushed from April to October. It got pushed from 1 October to the next October. So, of course, that date came and went. Nothing was announced. Nothing was shipped. And they just sent an email saying, hey, guys, we're in there. You're working on it. First of the year, you should hear something. Just quietly dismissing the delivery date that by the end of this year, they would have the Amico in the hands of the original buyers. So, and other things I've heard, I don't want to betray anyone's trust. I won't. And I don't want to reveal any sources, but basically they're willing at this point to break every promise of what it was going to be to get any goddamn thing out the door and get out from under this thing. That's what I'm hearing. That's what it looks like. That's what's out there on the radar. So at this point, it's news. We got to talk about it. And I want to give full disclosure and know we are, not trying to slam these guys. We purposely have not done that for some time now. But that seems to be the state of affairs with the Amico. It's not in good shape. And if it ships first of the year, I will fucking be shocked.
Yeah, I would go along with that. And I wonder if, because we were talking about, we were talking with Tommy about him coming on the show and maybe an exclusive, maybe not. But talking about, the hardware and having that discussion, what was in it, Scott tearing one apart. And I wonder if that is maybe what scared him off, initially at least, because, who knows what's in it at this point and at what state it's in.
Well, I don't think that's the case. And the reason I say that is because what we had asked for was to be in on, like get signed up as a dev, user, because we have like Random on staff, with his dev experience. We have Sparkle Post with his art experience, myself with the hardware experience. And Mike, yourself with the IT experience. You got a pretty good team here that if we were, to be able to be in on that dev action could, take a pretty serious third-party look at this thing and, give honest, helpful feedback and be a contributor, not a detractor. And it's kind of like, we put that on the table and we got, oh, thank you for your interest. Please sign up here for the Amico email. It's like, all right, dude, like a month ago when we were hanging out in the line at the expo and we're bullshitting about this, it sounded a little more friendly. Now it's like, please sign here for a 8x10 glossy of Tommy Tallarico. And I was just like, nah, bro, you enjoy your console,
Well,
but, I just don't, they can't say that they're delivering. That's for sure.
There's some more controversy with the tanks thing. Did you guys talk about that?
No.
Yeah, so just like a couple of days ago, this came out that they had a unreleased tank game that was going to be Tank Battle or something. It looked like one of the better games. Kind of remind me a little bit of the top down of like Jackal or something. Kind of an upgraded tank game. And nothing gets by the internet. So people realized that the screen that they were using was just a slightly modified version of a game called Gladiators of the Steel Legion. So some artist kind of, did some additional Photoshop work to that screenshot and kind of colorized it, add another explosion, changed the end of the turret to have more of like a compensator on it or something. And yeah, it's like, it's just a total ripoff. So they quickly took that video down.
This is the exact thing. You could have stepped in at this moment and said, hey, guys, I wouldn't send that out there because here's what people are going to see in 3 seconds. This is one step below a high cap 50B and a clear shell.
Yeah, I mean, now who knows? Maybe they hired somebody and the artist wasn't capable of doing the original art. And it's commonplace to use stock imagery or stock assets to kind of build your final composite from. That's definitely not a problem. But I mean, this is like a pretty blatant plagiarism attempt here. And then so they uploaded another video and then that was quickly taken down. And then they put up a third video that was listed as like, now the game is a work in progress and, placeholder graphics have been identified and blah, blah, blah. So it just didn't come out real well. That makes you wonder, like, man, is there some smoke and mirrors going on here? Or they maybe building this thing with, pre-existing 3D assets and you're just kind of getting like a hobbled together game. It's not really quite as original as you thought. They're using stock images and stock assets and stuff like that. So it's a bit concerning. I don't know that it spells doom for what they're doing, but it definitely makes you pause in the fact that they've had the missteps with the delays of the release, and Tommy has done quite well for himself. The guy is certainly independently wealthy by most standards. Is he wealthy enough to start an entire video game company that can compete? I don't know. I mean, I think you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more, to do that successful. And just looking at their official YouTube video, which you think would likely be the place that most people have viewed their videos. Some of their launch videos and stuff like that, I mean, they haven't even cracked 200,000 views. And I mean, I don't know. My kids watch other children that eat like fake gummy worms and shit, and those people get like 1 million views of like these ridiculous, stupid DIY ASMR videos and shit like that. And the fact that this is a new Intellivision console, a new video game console, and some of the games look quite interesting to me, like the idea of rolling the dice on the controller, the Moon Patrol, like even the what the hell is the bag toss game, the cornhole. I mean, to me that looks like a system seller game, and the fact that they haven't even crossed 200,000 views in almost 2 years of releasing that video, that's concerning. Like the word's not getting out. I don't know if the interest just isn't there, or they haven't done the right PR yet for this. But I certainly don't think that this has hit any kind of mass appeal yet. And sales sort of solve everything. So if you don't have the sales, like I don't see how you get the developers to make games for it and everything else. So it looks like an uphill battle. I mean, I certainly wish them success at this point, but I'll go buy one off the shelf the day it comes out and it's available, but I'm certainly not sending any pre-order money their way.
Well, I think you made a great point there, where you said two things, and one thing I want to tag on to, because it's kind of a cousin of the thought I had. So, yes, when you say that that sales solve everything, right? If there are no sales, there's no fix. That can create the buzz. You can be in all kinds of marketing trouble or all kinds of promo trouble, and the product comes out and people start buying it, and then other people start buying it, and people forget about, if your whole presentation or promo was great, people tend to attribute it to that. If everything was a shit show and then you drop a hot product, nobody remembers the failed goofy ad thing, promo campaign. So when you say sales fix everything, I agree. But also the corollary to that is that a lack of sales damages everything, sometimes irreparably. You only get, and Mark, during the CGE, you gave me a tremendous education on this topic about the timing, and not just the content, but the timing and the direction of releases and the need for follow-up. And certainly I learned that, I was just the other day, I was looking at some of the stuff in Smoke and Mirrors again. And when we had the CGE alumni debacle that was inflicted on us, it only has so much validity and so much time, so much power. So if you put out this video that's an initial teaser, then nothing ever follows but teasers, and there's just nothing but delays. It's all smoke and no roast, all fart, and no turd. It's all noise. At some point, people just turn the noise off, and it doesn't matter. You can roll out a product later, and it's like, yeah, that's whatever. That's decades old news,
And I don't know. I haven't spoke to them, but I mean, I think that with something like this, the way I would approach it backwards and say, like, what kind of install base do we need to have to court developers to make games for our system, exclusive games, and then walk it back from there? So I would imagine, you would have to have an install base of about 10 million units to whet the appetite of somebody developing time and resources into a game for this console, because if not, it's just not enough of a marketplace out there for this thing, right? And
then what you're relying on is people outside of the formal chain of suppliers. You're relying on indie developers, wannabe studios. I mean, let's say me, you, and let's say the group of us on this recording decided we're going to start a studio. Now we don't have any assets, we don't have any this, whatever, and we want to be a studio, right? And we don't have the deep pockets, the millions of dollars. We got some talent, and we start putting something together, right? That's the kind of guys you partner with. You're not partnering with, Bethesda, or whatever. So that's kind of how I see it. or you're doing just in-house development too. So that's going to be your games. Now, could some of them be spectacular games? Absolutely. Are many of them going to be pasted together reskins of basic things that you hope look amazing, but are really just duds when it comes down to it? You're going to get a lot of that too. I see this just. Maybe they deliver one, maybe they don't at this point. I know that. How many months have we heard they're going to production? I have seen we're ready for production. The first units are being produced. We're assembling it here. I've seen that shit for a year now. And what don't I have? A console. I've lost most interest in, tracking this thing or even worrying about it. And there's another product. I'll give you an example. From Persum, I bought a Librem 5, which is a Linux smartphone, right? Or is purported to be. They did, now the company's been around a while. They're not trying to build a company. They've had various products. They do like security laptops, all kinds of stuff. It's like cybersecurity stuff. And they have a legitimate product line heritage. So I don't want to misrepresent they're a startup over one product. So they said, we're going to roll out a Linux-based smartphone. So there's no phone home to Apple. There's no phone home to Google. It's a totally independent Linux machine that you can hook up to a USB-C and run 2 4K monitors and use as a workstation. Or, it also has an app and it can do a phone call and take text messages, So it's not tied to anybody. You can link it to like your home VPN and be tied to all your network attached storage or whatever. It's exactly what I want. And when I ordered it, it was we're within weeks of reaching shipping parity. So as soon as the order is replaced, it'll be fulfilled. And then they started off on all this goofy shit, man. Like they literally have, emails and tools and calculators about how to estimate your shipping date, all of which never happens. So here it is, literally 2.5 years later, they haven't shipped a goddamn thing. They've shipped a couple of units, but they've not shipped the bulk of their orders. And part of it is that the IC that's used, for the phone is the same thing used in automotive ECUs, which is not at all uncommon or weird. So they are kind of under the chip shortage thing. But what happened is if they had delivered things on time, and they keep pointing to the chip shortage and the pandemic, well, that's like a kid who didn't do his term paper, over the weekend, stayed up late that, Sunday night, misses the bus, comes running into school and says, yeah, Miss Smith, my term paper isn't ready because the bus is late. No, that's not why. Yeah, the bus was late, but you didn't do anything else. So that's kind of the shape they're in.
If we just kind of look at wholesale historical numbers, the original Intellivision, which has some name recognition. Do you know how many consoles they actually sold of that thing?
Nowhere near what Atari sold.
Okay. So the original Intellivision sold 3 million units. And that was a time when there was probably a lot less people in gaming, smaller populations and whatnot. But
I would argue more people in gaming, because there's been plenty of articles, studies, whatever, where they sort of say, okay, in 1984, there were, X million gamers. Today, there's half that. Where'd they go?
They're playing on their phones and stuff. But the Atari 2600 sold over 30 million copies. So there was 10 for every one Intellivision. So 30 million versus 3. I mean, the N-Gage that came out in 2003, okay, that I think if you asked a lot of people other than like hardcore hobbyists, wouldn't know what the fuck the N-Gage, the Nokia N-Gage was. The N-Gage sold 3 million units. It sold just as many as the original Intellivision did. So I just think it's an uphill battle. I don't think it has quite the name recognition that, maybe some other folks think it does, especially outside of like a certain age demographic of gaming. So, let's just look at the numbers here and say, man, like, okay, the Sega Saturn sold over 3 times more units than the Intellivision did. And like, they had a hard time getting people to make fucking games for the Saturn, or like the PlayStation Vita sold 5 times the amount. They sold 15 million of those fucking things. And goddamn, like pretty much after a year or two, Sony was the only company making shit for the Vita because people are like, fuck it, there's not enough of these things out there. Same with the Game Gear. Game Gear sold like around 12 million units, so 4 times the amount of the Intellivision. Sega was the only company putting shit out on it. The Wii U sold like nearly 14 million units. Nobody other than Nintendo was really putting shit on it because they're like, there's no fucking install base. So to me, like, he has to sell at least 10 million of these fucking things for any other developer to really be like, you know what, let's try our hand at making a game for this. Or it's just going to be a really small studio. Maybe it's an indie guy and he's like, you know what, I'm going to have one of the only cool games on this system and I'll roll the dice. But I don't think any mid-tier or major developer would consider it. Because they're going to look at the install base and be like, you know, call me when you have 25 million units sold. Then maybe I'll consider making a game for it.
And that is exactly the case. I think that when you say it that way, when you say that, okay, there's going to be 10 million for a major studio. Yeah, I totally agree. But I never expected major studio numbers to be on the Amico. I just didn't. I expected it to be in-house development and smaller studios. Now, could that be a refreshing departure from the norm? Because what are the major studios doing for me right now? Where's Fallout 5? Where's fucking Breath of the Wild 2? Where's
and that's exactly it. They're not even really making, like, my buddy is high up at Infinity Ward, and he's like, honestly, like, we really haven't started to develop anything new. We're just starting now for the PlayStation 5 level. Like, all this shit's kind of computer based, but like, we're not really making anything just for PlayStation 5 yet because like there's not enough of an install base to like make it worthwhile. We're still making shit for PS4 that works all the way up on the latest computers and shit, but like no one's developing really specifically for whatever the new Xbox is, whatever the new PlayStation 5 is, because it's like, well, shit, there's like 100 million of these old consoles that are still pretty viable, or there's this new thing, so we'll make it kind of for both, because why fire that off? I mean, you got like indie developers like the guy that made Axiom Verge, right? And that game is available on everything. So it's on the Switch, the Vita, PC, Mac, Linux, all that other stuff. So, you know, even as a small, like Thomas Happ, like I think it was like him and one other guy that made that game. Great fucking Metroidvania, modern Metroidvania. Love that game. But when he went out to do that, like, he certainly wasn't going to be like, well, I'm only going to make this indie game that works on this one thing and not have it available anywhere else. I mean, he's a small studio. He's an independent guy. He took 5 years to make this indie game. And there's no way in hell that he would put something out on the Amiga. Like, I just, why would you limit yourself? So they're going to have some killer first party games. I do think that Cornhole one looks pretty good. But, you know, if it doesn't have the games, like, no one's going to buy it. And like you said, you know, like, hey, look, you got to hit that install base for it to ever be worth a shit.
Or if you don't hit that install base number, which you at best have, and again, I say that I don't want the freaking the Amico to fail. I want it to succeed because right now, the major studios, for every reason you just enumerated, and a few I proposed, the major studios are sitting there with their thumb up their ass developing nothing. That's why I can't go out and buy anything. So as they're failing, okay, who cares? You know, in this window of opportunity speaking, who cares if Amico can't attract the attention of the people that aren't delivering shit to me? So, all right, they can't attract the attention of these guys. All right, let's let them get the indie studios and in-house developers. And what if they make some amazing stuff? Well, maybe they become the new go-to. And then all of a sudden they start getting the flood of money that the major studios aren't getting. and we get new blood, new talent. And the old guys sitting on the side of the road die off, okay? Fine, great. Let's have that happen. But if there's no Amico, there's no thing for even these guys to make games for. Now, I looked at the numbers real quick for the ColecoVision. Now, arguably, the ColecoVision, we've all heard of, some major titles, incredible performance. So it had everything going for it other than market timing. They sold 1 million units that first year, eked out 1 million more before the video game crash, and it was done. So they literally sold barely 2 million units, somewhere between which figure you look at, 1.5 to 1.9 million units. And that's a beloved system that had some fame. So 10 million, I don't see it happening. I don't know if the Amico is going to scratch 1 million. But it could still succeed if it delivered on games, and these indie guys could shine. I just don't see anybody making the effort. It just both channels have failed to deliver on all accounts.
Dave, I'd be curious your take on it. Where do you think they need to move units wise?
Oh, I don't know. If you think about it, back to the Ouya, even is this going to be a very similar situation to that? And there's basically one game which was Towerfall, which was the Ouya game to buy. But even that didn't really see anywhere near as much success as when they then took it onto Steam once, because I think it ended up having Ouya bought an exclusivity window, but then they went on Steam and once it hit Steam it did gangbusters, and then everything else on the Ouya just dried up, and everyone just threw them in the bin. So you can only see that it's going to be like that, except that it costs a fuckload more.
Yeah, the Ouya was $99 and came with a fucking pretty decent controller. Exactly.
And that's the thing, even if, you've got indie studios that you'd be like, right, well, can you make, they could be thinking, well, we'll port onto there as another platform. You've got to deal with having to specifically handle that controller and do all that fuckery. And no one's going to want to do it. It's just not worth the effort when you could just put it on itch, put it on Steam. Especially now you've got the Steam Deck coming out, so there's a whole potential handheld market for the PC indie scene. Although a lot of that anyway has been on Switch, and there's people are doing huge numbers on Switch as a handheld indie console.
So and the Ouya sold 200,000 units, by the way. 200,000 units. Their most popular, the killer game, sold 7,000 copies. I don't think, well, certainly as present performance, the Amico is going to deliver zip. It's literally delivered 0. So I think a best estimate for the Amico as is to match the Ouya, which I don't see them doing that, because you remember the engine and the momentum the Ouya had behind it, and it only did 200,000 units. I don't know. I just don't see. I don't see the Amico breaking that. I didn't before. Even when I ordered mine, I knew it was not going to be a big system. But here's this golden opportunity with the industry sitting on its hands to run in with a bunch of new talent and hopefully do something new and innovative, and they can't get a goddamn unit out the door.
Got it. Yeah, if the Ouya only sold 200,000, it seemed like
that was a big crowdfunding success, loads of hype.
The biggest for many years. It was the highest earning Kickstarter for a long time. I think it was the first to break 1 million. It was, well known. I mean, it had tons of media hype behind it.
But no prototype.
I even bought a second controller out of Target. They had a little, it was just an end cap or something. They didn't have a big area, but they had it at Target. I mean, that's a mass market retailer. So, and to only sell 200,000 copies of it, man, I can't imagine, what kind of numbers these guys are going to do. I'd be nervous.
Yeah, it's not good. And then software side, they said with the not world of tanks, the battle tank battle that Tommy's like, oh no, they're just placeholder assets, and it's common for people to use placeholder assets and stuff. But if you remember, this console was meant to be out like over a year ago originally. So if they haven't got software, pretty much done by now, what is actually going on with the development of any of it? Because they're not exactly the most complex games either. So it's, how quickly does China set up clones of mobile games like on app stores, especially Android? Like you're talking almost overnight. There's multiple clones of popular games already. So if you can, and it's not that much different, presumably, to just mobile hardware inside it and capability wise. Why is it so difficult for people to actually get anything ready to go for it for when they have got the hardware ready to launch? It's just a whole mess of a situation.
Yeah, I ordered 3. I don't want them to fail, and I would like to see this thing go, but here we are. I honestly forgot how many that we're on now for missed ship dates. I don't see shit showing up. The only thing we got was, maybe next year, kids, and we're out. Check out our rendered video. And I just don't. I see this bombing, and I think at this point, the best I can hope for is a greatly feature. What I'm expecting to receive is a thinly put together, rush finished, feature reduced shadow of what was promised that they will then embarrassingly try to defend as being what they said they were going to deliver, to the known failure of everybody viewing it, and that this thing will become another fucking shelf novelty.
On a side note, I did receive my silicone resealable food bags from Kickstarter and my Buccaneer skillet. I highly recommend the Buccaneer skillet, but I've still not received my my Polygon 4-in-1 flat measuring spoons from 2016. So they, I guess Chinese New Year is coming soon, and they said they're having some manufacturing issues again. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know about that Kickstarter.
Yeah, the global spoon shortage.
It's so good reading all the comments though. People are like, "Fuck you! I want to kill you" and shit.
Fucking spoon, bro.
Yeah.
So we just got a couple of news items to finish off. This one I think we've had before from Random. Watching AI tear through 237 levels of NES Tetris, exposing its bugs and glitches. About a 25-minute video you can watch either embedded or on YouTube. Decent video. And it tells you, what is humanly possible and what the AI does, and you can see the glitches and eventually the kill screen. A bit of sad news again. We had some illness at the top, as we mentioned. Sparkle went and got his magic cream and his magic rub at the ER. But Imagine and Psygnosis co-founder David Lawson passed away in August, age 62. And I was speaking to Simon about this one today. And he knew David Lawson, worked with David Lawson at Imagine. But he left the games industry and really he didn't keep in touch with anyone. Like, Simon's still in touch with a lot of those people from Denton's, Imagine, Ocean, and what have you. But David kind of dropped out of the scene, never kept in touch. But I believe Simon it was, or maybe someone else who Simon was in touch with, spoke to David's ex-wife or widow or whatever it was. And she confirmed, yes, it was the same David Lawson. And yes, he did pass away in August. So that's that one. And then finally, I think Random has got a Games Master one.
forgot to mention at the top of the show that I did, of course, watch the first episode of Games Master, the new Games Master, and I was quite happy with what they've done. Sort of trying to, they've obviously modernised it a bit, but they've kept a lot of the graphics and the audio and the stylings sort of pretty faithful. I think. Well, I've always liked Rab Florence anyway, so I've no problems with him as a host. And Trevor McDonald suited the Games Master himself pretty well. I think it's quite interesting as well that obviously the first one was aimed at sort of school kids, and now they're sort of the school kid crowd and contestants, and now they're kind of sort of aiming it as a nod to people who are that age then, who are now like mid-30s gaming losers. So the contestants are all that sort of age, and obviously the crowd as well. So it's I think they've done all right with it. And that's released for free every Sunday on E4's YouTube channel. So yeah, pop over there and have a little watch if you're curious. And then the other thing I wanted to say, obviously we've had talk of Craig Turner's illness and obviously the manscaping, but it's obviously worth whether you're shaving your balls or not. Obviously it's an ideal time to do it, but always worth having a little rummage around and a little check.
Sound advice,
sure
medical advice. Are we allowed to give medical advice?
Probably not.
I think that's good medical advice, though.
Well, I think you can go as far as have a route around, see if there's any new lumps and bumps that you're not expected, and then go to a grown up and get them inspected properly.
A grown up. Yeah. Okay, we're at the end of news. We had some sad news, we had some good news, we had a good discussion, and my new monitors work perfectly, so that's good. I'm just going to resize a few things once we're finished. But we had a few in chat, some even chatting away. I think Elfham's been there the whole time. He said a moment ago, got to go, had a good time, have a great month. Thank you, Elfham. So thank you for those who were in
Mike,
chat. Yes.
Let's do a little something for Craig, man. We're all smart. What can we do for our friend Craig?
I don't know. What are you thinking? Send him a Manscaped?
Well, I thought I would throw it out there and see if we have any ideas.
I'm sure we can come up with something. Take over the expo and run it next year.
Right, yeah. Would it be insensitive to send him a Manscaped gift set or what?
Maybe. We could do a charity stream, but then, usually you do that to sort of raise money to cover his medical bills. But obviously he's going to be fortunate enough not to necessarily need them.
I know that Simon reached out to him and said it took some balls to post that, but then he messaged him privately after and said, I hope that wasn't insensitive. So, yeah.
I wouldn't expect sensitivity from Butler or us.
No.
But what you do get is somebody who, instead of faking dignified wishes, actually wishes you well because they like you.
Yeah.
So Craig Turner, for those, just to sort of close out on this, for those of you who don't know or whatever, Craig is one of the main drivers behind the expo scene in the UK. And I tell you what, there's a lot of infighting, a lot of silly drama, but he has never been in any way disrespectful, dishonest. He has in every way been a great guy, and he knows you. Like, when I see this dude at an expo, he sees you from across the room and comes right over and is glad to see you. And he is a genuinely good dude. And, I and we as a show wish him a speedy recovery, because he is one of the good guys. So, I would just like to do something for him. If our listeners have any ideas, feel free to email us. You can just send it to the news address, and we'll reconvene next month. And between user suggestions and our own ideas, whatever, we're going to put together something for Craig, because he's a good friend of the show and a good dude.
We could send him all those back issues of Retro Magazine to keep him busy.
You know
enough.
what? That's a fine gift.
You know what? I've been sending off comic books to get graded, and I realized that CGC will grade magazines, and I'm half tempted to send in my personal copy of issue 1 to get graded, and have sealed just for,
You should do it.
historical provenance. Like, why not?
Oh, and then SoCal will probably end up buying it for some ridiculous amount of money
Yeah.
after he does his third remortgage of his house or whatever,
I
or
don't think-
trailer.
I
whatever.
don't think
the only
Trisha would allow it in
sealed-
the house.
Of all the things I've tossed over the years, the one thing I wish I hadn't thrown away was the retro mag I got that had the full page Coleco Chameleon ad in it. I got that in the mail. I took it out of the package. I took a picture of it over the trash can, opened up to the Coleco Chameleon ad, took a picture of it over the trash can, and then pitched it in, which felt good and satisfying at the time. But man, I really wish I had kept that, because what would it be to have that fucking thing? But no, it felt good at the time. I stand by it, but
I think I have a couple extra copies I could send you.
that would actually be really cool, man. If you do that, that would be really cool of you. I would just love to have the that thing, especially that full page ad of the Chameleon. See, at one point I couldn't wait to wad that up and hurl it out the window. Today, I think I would actually frame it. You don't happen to have the original art asset for that, do you?
I don't know.
So, let me ask you this. Who owns that? I mean, not that much matters, but hell, I could even lay claim to owning it, I guess, to some of it, a percentage of it. I know that, like, we had a run of posters done that we would probably sell 3. But I'd sure like to get a line of shirts made or something with that image on it, because it's just too funny to let go.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it's public domain at this point.
Yeah, how does that work, man? If, like, the company, like Theranos, who can make Theranos t-shirts right now? I mean, who the fuck knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to consult with my lawyers and showers and shit and find out.
You could sell it on readretro.com.
Yeah.
If fucking Sean Robinson owned that, I would take absolutely no offense at that. I would give Sean money for the licensing rights. Now, Grant, my phone will probably ring here in 30 seconds. Hey, I hear you guys are looking to buy this, but yeah, I would actually buy this thing almost just to be able to print the T-shirts. So
There's plenty of rip-off Coleco shit on Redbubble, but I haven't found any Coleco Chameleon yet.
well, I mean, it didn't ever exist, so there's that. But all right, gentlemen. Yeah,
Wouldn't stop anyone.
let's hear what the listeners have to say, and we want to reach out and give Craig there a big public hug. So anything you guys got, any ideas, just hit us up.
Yep. And as for throwing the magazine away, Scott, we can finish on a profound saying: never regret anything that once made you smile.
Imagine Jeffrey Dahmer.
yeah, I have no regrets.
No regrets.
All right, listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching, listening live, or listening to the podcast, and we'll see you for the December episode very, very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Nighty-night, everybody.
Christmas.
Have
Give me
fun,
some of that
kids.
Christmas.
Okay, hey, I got just a quick 1-minute thing since we're clear recording. So
wait. I've stopped the recording, but not the live stream. Let me stop that.
Oh, that would be
Bye,
funny.
everybody.